welcome to CJ's Keto Kitchen. Tonight we're going to be doing a quick recipe, and this is going to be a keto version of Bisquick, because I don't know about you, but I grew up in the 70s and Bisquick was a big deal. And I know that there are some low carb products like Carb Quick, but it doesn't quite have the same whole food ingredients that this is going to have in it. So we are going to make a low carb Bisquick, and then you'll be able to use that in further recipes. So come along with us and let's get started. Okay, so we are going to start out with almond flour. And we should be able to use this baking mix multiple times depending on how much Bisquick your traditional recipe calls for. I got a container, just a Snapware container, that I'll be able to put this mix in when you're done. And you should be able to store it fairly long. It does have whole food ingredients, so of course it's not going to last as long as the processed stuff on the shelf. So I'm starting with 2.5 cups of almond flour, and I'm just using the blanched. And then to that, I am going to add 1/3 cup of unflavored whey protein powder. You can use whey powder, you can use egg white powder, just some form of protein powder, but not soy, and unflavored, of course, because we don't want this to taste like chocolate or vanilla or anything like that. So we need 1/3 cup of that. And then we are also going to use 2 tablespoons of baking powder, and we want it baking powder, not baking soda. So we're going to dump that in. We are also going to need 2 tablespoons of artificial sweetener, and you can use whatever you would like. I am using the monk fruit and erythritol blend. And you could use Swerve, you could use whatever you would like, or you can omit that if you want, but it does add to the flavor. So that's 2 tablespoons going in. And then we're also going to need a teaspoon of cream of tartar. And we just need 1 teaspoon of that. And we also want to add some salt. And we are going to be adding some salted butter, so it will have some salt in there. But I want about a teaspoon of salt or thereabouts, and I'm just using pink Himalayan. And then we want to just incorporate all of those dry ingredients together and make sure that they get well blended. Get all the lumps out, because both baking powder and almond flour can get kind of lumpy. And we want to try and get that all out so that when we use this as baking mix, it's as well combined as we can get for our recipes. Okay, now to this mix, in order to make this a Bisquick or quick baking mix, we need to cut in a form of fat. And you can either use 1/2 cup of coconut oil, or you can use 1/2 cup of butter. And I'm going to be using butter, and I have cut it already into cubes. And 1/2 cup of butter is 1 stick, in case you didn't know that. And I have sliced it into cubes, and I'm just going to toss that in there. And I'm going to cut the butter, and cutting just simply means combining it. And you want the texture of kind of wet sand. You just want to make sure that it's incorporated. So you need to start with cold butter. And of course you can use a pastry blender or a fork, or 2 forks if you prefer. But I like doing cutting with my hands because your body heat creates a subtle warmth that helps the butter combine into the dry ingredients. So we're looking for a coarse sand texture. So this is similar to if you were making biscuits, because essentially that's what this is. But most people will use this baking mix as a starter for something like biscuits or pancakes or some of your other things. And as far as creating recipes out of it, we are going to use this as part of a sausage pie. So it's nice to have this in the pantry for when you want something quick to throw together, especially during weeknights for your family. that's just ready to go relatively quickly. So then most of the time when you have a product like this, you will just add eggs when you're ready to cook it, and or some kind of liquid, usually milk or cream. It's starting to even out and get well combined. We still have a few larger lumps that I'm working on, but you can kind of see that it's starting to get kind of sandy, and that's what we want. And then we should be able to store this. Like I said, you know, you wouldn't want to store it like for a year or anything, but a couple of weeks it should be fine, especially if you keep it cool with the butter. You know, it being summer, you probably don't want to store it too long, and of course you could store it in the refrigerator if you'd like, just somewhere cool and dark. Okay, it looks pretty thoroughly mixed. You can see that it's a nice sandy texture, so we will put it into our jar. And then the next time we are ready for a Bisquick type product, we will have this ready to go, and we'll just be able to add our other ingredients. I can get the jar open. Damp hands. There we go. I thought I was gonna have to give it to CJ. Get a man to open your jars. So now I'm just gonna put this into the jar, and I'm using a spoon so I don't make a big mess. It's no guarantee that I won't make a mess, even though I'm using a spoon. Okay, so there it is in our jar, and that gave us about 2.5 cups of mix. And so the next time we want to make something with Bisquick or a baking mix, we have it, and it's keto.